It's transatlantic cable, that's what it is. Running standby.
Greetings from the Irish American Heritage Centre in Chicago. Happy Bloomsday, everyone. We would love to congratulate Bob Joyce and the James Joyce Centre in Dublin for undertaking this ambitious project. We've been celebrating Bloomsday here at the Irish American Heritage Centre for 13 years, and we are honoured and thrilled to be participating in this global reading of Ulysses. Joining me from Chicago are, in order of reading, Vera Kelly, Brad Armacost, Cynthia Judge, the Consul General of Ireland, Chicago, Aidan Cronin, his wife, Maeve Cronin, Kevin Cassidy, Bridget Duffy, Evan Armacost, Brad Armacost again, and myself, Josephine Craven. If you are ever in Chicago, please do come and visit us at the Irish American Heritage Centre. There will always be a céad míle fáilte for you.
What reflections occupied his mind during the process of reversion of the inverted volumes? The necessity of order, a place for everything and everything in its place. The deficient appreciation of literature possessed by females. The incongruity of an apple incunated in a tumbler, and of an umbrella inclined in a clothes stool. The insecurity of hiding any secret document behind, beneath, or between the pages of a book. Whose volume was the largest in bulk? Hozier's History of the Russo-Turkish War. What, among other data, did the second volume of the work in question contain? The name of a decisive battle, forgotten, frequently remembered by a decisive officer, Major Brian Cooper Tweedy, remembered. Why, firstly and secondly, did he not consult the work in question? Firstly, in order to exercise mnemonic, secondly, because after an interval of amnesia, when seated at the central table, about to consult the work in question, he remembered by mnemonic the name of the military engagement, Plevna. What caused him consolation in his sitting posture? The candour, nudity, pose, tranquility, youth, grace, sex, counsel of a statue erect in the centre of a table, an image of Narcissus purchased by auction from P.A. Wren 9 Bachelor's Walk. What caused him irritation in his sitting posture? Inhibitory pressure of collar, size 17, and waistcoat, 5 buttons, 2 articles of clothing superfluous in the costume of mature males, and inelastic to alterations of mass by expansion. What was the irritation allayed? He removed his collar with contained black necktie and collapsible stud from his neck to a position on the left of the table. He unbuttoned successively in reverse direction waistcoat, trousers, shirt, and vest along the medial line of irregular, incrustated black hairs extending in triangular convergence from the pelvic basin near the circumference of the abdomen, and unumbicular fossicle along the medial line of nodes to the intersection of the 6th pectoral vertebrae, thence produced both ways at right angles and terminating in circles described about 2 equidistant points, right and left, on the summits of the mammillary prominences. He unbraced successively each of 6 minus 1 braced trouser buttons, arranged in pairs of which one incomplete. What involuntary actions followed? He compressed between 2 fingers the flesh circumjacent to a cicatrix in the left infracostal region below the diaphragm, resulting from a sting inflicted 2 weeks and 3 days previously, 23rd of May 1904, by a bee. He scratched imprecisely with his right hand, though insensible of fruition, various points and surfaces of his partly exposed, wholly abluted skin. He inserted his left hand into the left lower pocket of his waistcoat and extracted and replaced a silver coin, 1 shilling, placed there presumably on the occasion, 10th of October 1903, of the interment of Miss Emily Cinco, Sydney Parade. Compiled the budget for the 16th of June 1904. Debit column. 1 poor kidney, 3d. 1 copy Freeman's Journal, 1 pence. 1 bath and gratification, 1 and 6d. Tram fare, 1 pence. 1 in memoriam Patrick Dignam, 5 bob. 2 Banbury cakes, 1 pence. 1 lunch, 7 pence. 1 renewal fee for book, 1 bob. 1 packet notepaper and envelopes, 2d. 1 dinner and gratification, 2 bob. 1 postal order and stamp, 2 and 8d. Tram fare, 1 pence. 1 pig's foot, 4 pence. 1 sheep's trotter, 3d. 1 cake, fries, plain chocolate, 1 pence. 1 square soda bread, 4d. 1 coffee and bun, 4d. Loan to Stephen Dedalus, refunded £1 7 bob. Balance 16 and sixpence. Total £2 19 and threepence. Credit column, cash in hand 4 and ninepence. Compensation received, Freeman's Journal, £1 7 and sixpence. Loan to Stephen Dedalus, £1 7 bob. Total £2 19 and threepence. Did the process of divestiture continue? Sensible of a benignant, persistent ache in the footsoles, he extended his foot to one side and observed the creases, protuberances, and salient points caused by foot pressure in the course of walking repeatedly in several different directions. Then he inclined his disnoded the lace knots, unhooked and loosened the laces, took off each of his 2 boots the second time, detached the partially moistened right sock, through the forefront of which the nail of his great toe had effracted, raised his right, and having unhooked a purple elastic sock suspender, took off the right sock, placed his unclothed right foot on the margin of the seat of his chair, picked at and gently lacerated the protruding part of the great toenail, raised the part lacerated to his nostrils, and inhaled the odour of the quick. Then, with satisfaction, he threw away the lacerated unguenal fragment. Why with satisfaction? Because the odour inhaled corresponded to other odours inhaled of other unguenal fragrances, picked and lacerated by Master Bloom, pupil of Miss Ellis's juvenile school, patiently each night in the act of brief genuflection and nocturnal prayer and ambitious meditation.
In what ultimate ambition had all concurrent and consecutive ambitions now coalesced? Not to inherit by right of primogeniture, gavel-kind or borough English, or possess in perpetuity an extensive domain of sufficient number of acres, roads, and perches, statute land measure, valuation £42, of grazing turbary surrounding a baronial hall with gate lodge and carriage drive, nor, on the other hand, the terrace house or semi-detached villa, described as Rose in Herbe or Quisana, but to be purchased by private treaty in fee simple attached bungalow-shaped 2-story dwelling house of southerly aspect, surmounted by vane and lightning conductor, connected with the earth, with porch covered by parasitic plants, ivy or Virginia creeper, hall door, olive green with smart carriage finish and neat door brasses, stucco front with gilt tracery at eaves and gable, rising, if possible, upon a gentle eminence with agreeable prospect from balcony with stone pillar parapet, over unoccupied and unoccupiable interjacent pastures, and standing in 5 or 6 acres of its own ground at such a distance from the nearest public thoroughfare as to render its house lights visible at night above and through a quickset hornbeam hedge of topiary cutting. Situate at a given point, not less than 1 statute mile from the periphery of the point, not less than 1 metropolis, within a time limit of not more than 5 minutes from tram or train line, e.g. Dundrum, south, or Sutton, north, both localities equally reported by trial to resemble the terrestrial poles in being favourable climates for physical subjects. The premise to be held under fee farm grant, lease 999 years, the messuage to consist of 1 drawing room with bay window, 2 lancets, thermometer axed, 1 sitting room, 4 bedrooms, 2 servant kitchen with close range and scullery, long hall fitted with linen wall presses, fumed oak sectional bookcase containing the Encyclopedia Britannica and New Century Dictionary, transverse, obsolete, medieval and oriental weapons, dinner gong, alabaster lamp, bowl pendant, vulcanite automatic telephone receiver with adjacent directory, hand-tufted Axminster carpet with cream ground and trellis border, loo table with pillar and claw legs, hearth with massive fire brasses and ormolu mantle chronometer clock legs, hearth and guaranteed timekeeper with cathedral chime, barometer with hydrographic chart, comfortable lounge settees and corner fitments, upholstered in ruby plush with good springing and sunk centre, 3-banner Japanese screen and cuspidors, club style, rich wine-coloured leather, gloss renewable with a minimum of labour by use of linseed oil and vinegar, and pyramidically prismatic central chandelier lustre, bentwood perch with a finger-tame parrot, expurgated language, Embossed mural paper at 10 per dozen, with transverse swags of carmine floral design, and top crown frieze, staircase, 3 continuous flights at successive right angles of varnished, clear-grained oak treads and risers, newel, balusters, and handrail, with stepped-up panel dado dressed with camphorated wax. Bathroom, hot and cold supply, reclining and shower, water closet on mezzanine provided with opaque single-pane oblong window, tip-up seat, bracket lamp, brass tie rod brace, armrest, footstool, and artistic oleograph on inner face of door. Ditto plate. Servants' apartments with separate sanitary and hygienic necessaries for cook, general, and between-maid, salary rising by biennial unearned increments of £2, with comprehensive fidelity insurance, annual bonus £1, and retiring allowance based on the 65 system after 30 years' service. Pantry, buttery, larder, refrigerator, out offices, coal and wood cellarage, with wine bin, still and sparkling vintages, for distinguished guests, if entertained to dinner, evening dress. Carbon monoxide gas supply throughout. What additional attractions might the grounds contain? As addenda, a tennis and fives court, a shrubbery, a glass summer house with tropical palms equipped with the best botanical manner, a rockery with water spray, a beehive arranged on humane principles, oval flower beds and rectangular grass pots set with eccentric ellipses of scarlet and chrome tuberings, blue scillas, crocuses, polyanthus, sweet William, sweet pea, lily of the valley, bulbs obtainable from Sir James W. Mackey Limited, wholesale and retail seed and bulb merchant and nurseryman, agents for chemical manures, 23 Sackville Street, Upper. An orchard, kitchen garden and vinery protected against illegal trespassers by glass-topped mural enclosures, a lumber shed with padlock for various inventoried implements, eel traps, lobster pots, fishing rods, hatchet, steel yard, grindstone, clod crusher, swathe turner, carriage sack, telescope ladder, 10-tooth rake, washing clogs, hay tether, tumbling rake, bill hook, paint pot, brush, hoe, and so on. What improvements might be subsequently introduced? A rabbitry and fowl run, a dovecote, a botanical conservatory, 2 hammocks, ladies and gentlemen, a sundial shaded and sheltered by laburnum or lilac trees, an exotically harmonically accorded Japanese tinkled gate bell affixed to the left lateral gate post, a capacious water butt, a lawnmower with side delivery and grass box, a lawn sprinkler with hydraulic hose. What facilities of transit were desirable? When city-bound, frequent connection by train or tram from their respective intermediate station or terminal. When country-bound, velocipedes, a chainless freewheel roadster cycle with side basket car attached, or draft conveyance, a donkey with wicker trap, a smart phaeton with good working, solungular cob, roan gelding 14 hands. What might the name of this erigible or erected residence? Bloom Cottage, St. Leopold's, Flowerville. Good Bloom of 7 Eccles Street, for see Bloom of Flowerville, in loose, all-wool garments with Harris tweed, price 8 and 6, and useful garden boots with elastic gussets and watering can, planting aligned young fir trees, syringing, pruning, staking, sowing hay seeds, trundling a weed-laden wheelbarrow without excessive fatigue at sunset, amid the scent of new-mown hay, ameliorating the soil, multiplying wisdom, achieving longevity.
What syllabus of intellectual pursuits was simultaneously possible? Snapshot photography, comparative study of religions, folklore relative to various amatory and superstitious practices, contemplation of the celestial constellations. What lighter recreations? Outdoor, garden and field work, cycling on level macadamized causeways, ascents of moderately high hills, natation in secluded freshwater, and unmolested riverboating in secure, wary, or light curricle with kedge anchor on reaches free from weirs and rapids, period of estivation, vespertinal perambulation or equestrian circumprocession with inspection of sterile landscape and contrastingly agreeable cottages' fires of smoking peat turfs, period of hibernation. Indoor discussion in tepid security of unsolved historical and criminal problems. Lecture of unexpurgated, exotic, erotic, masterpieces, house carpentry with toolbox containing hammer, awl, nails, screws, tin tacks, gimlet, tweezers, bullnose plane, and turn screw. Might he become a gentleman farmer of field produce and livestock? Not impossibly, with 1 or 2 stripper cows, 1 pike of upland hay, and requisite farming implements, e.g., an end-to-end churn, a turnip pulper, etc. What would be his civic functions and social status among the county families and landed gentry? Arranged successively in ascending powers of hierarchical order, that of gardener, groundsman, cultivator, breeder, and at the zenith of his career, resident magistrate or justice of the peace with a family crest and coat of arms and appropriate classical motto, Semper Paratus, duly recorded in the court directory, Bloom, Leopold P., MP, PC, KP, LLD, honoris causa, Bloomville, Dondrum, and mentioned in court and fashionable intelligence, Mr. and Mrs. Leopold Bloom have left Kingstown for England. What course of action did he outline for himself in such capacity? A course that lay between undue clemency and excessive rigor, the dispensation in a heterogeneous society of arbitrary classes, incessantly rearranged in terms of greater and lesser social inequality, of unbiased, homogeneous, indisputable justice, tempered with mitigants of the widest possible latitude, but exactable to the uttermost farthing with confiscation of estate, real and personal, to the crown. Loyal to the highest constituted power in the land, actuated by an innate love of rectitude, his aims would be the strict maintenance of public order, the repression of many abuses, though not of all simultaneously, every measure of reform or retrenchment being a preliminary solution to be contained by fluxion in the final solution, the upholding of the letter of the law, common, statute, and law merchant, against all travessers in coven and trespassers acting in contravention of bylaws and regulations, all resuscitators by trespass and petty larceny of kindlings of Venville rights, obsolete by desuetude, all orotund instigators of international persecution, all perpetuators of international animosities, all menial molesters of domestic conviviality, all recalcitrant violators of domestic connubiality. Prove that he had loved rectitude from his earliest youth. To Master Percy Apjohn at high school in 1880, he had divulged his disbelief in the tenets of the Irish Protestant Church, to which his father, Rudolph Virag, later Rudolph Bloom, had been converted from the Israelitic faith and communion in 1865 by the Society for Promoting Christianity Among the Jews, subsequently abjured by him in favor of Roman Catholicism at the epoch of and with a view to his matrimony in 1888. To Daniel McGrain and Francis Wade in 1882, during a juvenile friendship, terminated by the premature emigration of the former, he had advocated during nocturnal perambulations the political theory of colonial, e.g. Canadian, expansion, and the evolutionary theories of Charles Darwin expounded in The Descent of Man and the Origin of Species. In 1885, he had publicly expressed his adherence to the collective and national economic program advocated by James Finton Lalor, John Fisher Murray, John Mitchell, J.F.X. O'Brien, and others, the policy of Michael Davitt, the constitutional agitation of Charles Stewart Parnell, MP for Cork City, the program of peace, retrenchment, and reform of William Ewart Gladstone, MP for Midlothian, NB, and in support of his political convictions, had climbed up into a secure position amid the ramifications of a tree on Northumberland Road to see the entrance, 2 February 1888, into the capital of a demonstrative torchlight procession of 20,000 torchbearers, divided into 120 trade corporations bearing 2,000 torches in escort of the Marquess of Ripon and John Morley.
How much and how did he propose to pay for this country residence? As per prospectus of the industrious Foreign acclimatised, nationalised, friendly, state-aided building society, incorporated 1874, a maximum of £60 per annum, being 1/6 of an assured income, derived from gilt-edged securities representing a 5% simple interest on capital of £1,200, estimate of price at 20 years purchase, of which 1/3 to be paid on acquisition and the balance in the form of annual rent, viz. £800 plus 2.5% interest on the same, repayable quarterly in equal annual instalments until extinction by amortisation of loan advanced for purchase within a period of 20 years, amounting to an annual rent of £64, head rent included. The title deeds to remain in possession of the lender or lenders, with a saving clause envisaging forced sale, foreclosure and mutual compensation in the event of protracted failure to pay the terms assigned. Otherwise, the messuage to become the absolute property of the tenant-occupier upon expiry of the period of years stipulated. What rapid but insecure means to opulence might facilitate immediate purchase? A private wireless telegraph which would transmit by dot and dash system the result of a national equine handicap at or steeplechase of 1 or more miles and furlongs, won by an outsider, at odds of 50-1 at 3 hours 8 minutes PM at Ascot, Greenwich time, the message being received and available for betting purposes in Dublin at 2:59 PM, Dunsink time. The unexpected discovery of an object of great monetary value, precious stone, valuable adhesive or impressed, postage stamps, 7 shilling, mauve, imperforate, Hamburg, 1866, 4pence, rose, blue paper, perforate, Great Britain, 1855. 1 franc stone official rouletted diagonal surcharge, Luxembourg, 1878, antique dynastical ring, unique relic, in unusual repositories or by unusual means, from the air, dropped by an eagle in flight, by fire, amid the carbonized remains of an insatiated edifice, in the sea, amid flotsam, jetsam, lichen and derelict, unearthed in the gizzard of a comestible fowl. A Spanish prisoner's donation of a distant treasure of valuables or specie or bullion lodged with a sovereign banking corporation 100 years previously at 5% compound interest of the collective worth of £5 million sterling. A contract with an inconsiderate contractee for the delivery of 32 consignments of some given commodity in consideration of cash payment on delivery per delivery at the initial rate of 4p to be increased constantly in the geometrical progression of 2. 1 and 4, 1 and 2, a penny, 2p, 4p, 8p, shilling and 4, 2 shilling and 8 to 32 terms. A prepared scheme based on a study of the laws of probability to break the Bank of Monte Carlo. A solution of the secular problem of the quadrature of the circle, government premium £1 million sterling. Was vast wealth acquirable through industrial channels? The reclamation of duedams of waste urinary soil proposed in the prospectus of Agnes Nateum, Bleibelstrasse, Berlin, West 15, by the cultivation of orange plantations and melon fields and reforestation, the utilisation of waste paper, fails of sewer rodents, human excrement possessing chemical properties in view of the vast production of the first, vast number of the second, and immense quantity of the third. Every normal human being of average vitality and appetite producing annually, cancelling byproducts of water, a sum total of 80 pounds, mixed animal and vegetable diet, to be multiplied by 4,386,035, the total population of Ireland according to the census returns of 1901.
Were there schemes of a wider scope? A scheme to be formulated and submitted for approval to the Harbour Commissioners for the exploitation of white coal, hydraulic power, obtained by hydroelectric plant at peak of tide at Dublin Bar or at head of water at Paulafuca or Powerscourt or catchment basins of main streams for the economic production of 500,000 WHP of electricity. A scheme to enclose the peninsular delta of the North Bull at Dollymount and erect, on the space of the foreland used for golf links and rifle ranges, an asphalted esplanade with casinos, booths, shooting galleries, hotels, boarding houses, reading rooms, establishments for mixed bathing. A scheme for the use of dog vans and goat vans for the delivery of early morning milk. A scheme for the development of Irish tourist traffic in and around Dublin by means of petrol-propelled riverboats plying in the Uvial fairway between Island Bridge and Ringsend, Carabanks, narrow-gauge local railways, and pleasure steamers for coastwide navigation, 10 bob per person per day, guide, trilingual included. A scheme for the repristination of passenger and goods traffics over Irish waterways when freed from weed beds. A scheme to connect by tram line the Cattle Market, North Circular Road and Pusher Street, with the quays, Sheriff Street Lower and East Wall, parallel with the Link Line railway lane in conjunction with the Great Southern and Western Railway line between the Cattle Park, Liffey Junction and the terminus of Mid-Great Western Railway 43 to 45 North Wall, in proximity to the terminal stations or Dublin branches of Great Central Railway, Midland Railway of England, City of Dublin Steam Packet Company, Lancashire Yorkshire Railway Company, Dublin and Glasgow Steam Packet Company, Glasgow, Dublin and Londonderry Steam Packet Company, Laird Line, British and Irish Steam Packet Company, Dublin and Morecambe Steamers, London and North Western Railway Company, Dublin Port and Docks Board Landing Sheds, and transit sheds of Palgrave Murphy and Company, steamship owners, agents for steamers for Mediterranean, Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium and Holland, and for Liverpool Underwriters Association, the cost of acquired rolling stock for animal transport and of additional mileage for operated by the Dublin United Tramways Company Limited to be covered by grazier's fees. Positing what protasis would the contraction for such several schemes become a natural and necessary apodosis. Given a guarantee equal to the sum sought, the support, by deed or gift and transfer vouchers during donor's lifetime or by bequest after donor's painless extinction of eminent financiers Bloom, Pasha, Rothschild, Guggenheim, Hirsch, Montefiore, Morgan, Rockefeller, possessing fortunes in 6 figures amassed during a successful life and joining capital with opportunity, the thing required was done. What eventuality would render him independent of such wealth? The independent discovery of gold seam of inexhaustible ore. For what reason did he meditate on schemes so difficult of realization? It was one of his axioms that similar meditations have the automatic relation to himself of a narrative concerning himself or tranquil recollection of the past, when practiced habitually before retiring for the night, alleviated fatigue and produced, as a result, sound repose and renovated vitality. His justifications? As a physicist, he had learned that of the 70 years of complete human life, at least 2/7, viz., 20 years, are passed in sleep. As a philosopher, he knew that the termination of any allotted life, only an infinitesimal part of any person's desires, has been realized. As a physiologist, he believed that the artificial application of malignant agents is chiefly operative during somnolence. What did he fear? The committal of homicide or suicide during sleep by an aberration of the light of reason. The incommensurable categorical intelligence situated in the cerebral convulsions. What were habitually his final meditations? Of some one sole unique advertisement to call passers to stop and wonders of poster novelty, with all extraneous accretions excluded, reduced to its simplest and most efficient terms, not exceeding the span of casual vision and congruous with the velocity of modern life.
What did the first drawer unlocked contain? A Vera Foster's handwriting copybook, property of Millicent Bloom, certain pages of which bore diagram drawings marked Papley, which showed a large globular head with 4 hairs erect, 2 eyes in profile, the trunk full front with 3 large buttons, 1 triangular foot, 2 fading photographs of Queen Alexandra of England and of Maud Bronscombe, actress and professional beauty, a Yuletide card bearing on it a pictorial representation of a parasitic plant, the legend Mizpah, the date, Christmas 1892, the name of the senders, from Mr. and Mrs. M. Comerford, the versicle, may this Yuletide bring to thee joy and peace and welcome glee. A bud of red, partly liquefied sealing wax, obtained from the stores department of Messrs. Helly's, Limited, 8990 and 91 Dame Street. A box containing the remainder of a gross of gilt J pen nibs, obtained from the same department of same firm. An old sand glass, which rolled, containing sand, which rolled. A sealed prophecy, never unsealed, written by Leopold Bloom in 1886, concerning the consequences, of the passing into law of William Ewart Gladstone's Home Rule Bill of 1886 never passed into law. A bazaar ticket, number 2004, of St. Kevin's Charity Fair, price 6 pence, 100 prizes. An infantile epistle dated small m Monday, reading capital P, Popley, comma, capital H, how are you? Note of interrogation, capital I am very well, full stop. New paragraph, signature with flourishes, capital M, Millie, no stop. A cameo brooch, property of Ellen Bloom, born Higgins, deceased. 3 typewritten letters, addressee Henry Flower, care of Post Office, Westland Row, addresser Martha Clifford, care of P.O. Dolphin's Barn. The transliterated name and address of the addresser of the 3 letters in reversed alphabetic boustrophedonic punctuated quadrilinear cryptogram, vowel suppressed. N period, exclamation point, IGS period slash WI period UU period OX slash W period OKS period MH slash Y period IM. A press cutting from an English weekly periodical, Modern Society. Subject, corporal chastisement in girls' schools. A pink ribbon which had festooned an Easter egg in the year 1899. 2 partly uncoiled rubber preservatives with reserve pockets, purchased by post from Box 32, P.O. Charing Cross, London, WC. 1 pack of 1 dozen cream-laid envelopes and faint ruled notepaper, watermarked, now reduced by 3. Some assorted Austrian-Hungarian coins. 2 coupons of the Royal and Privileged Hungarian Lottery, a low-power magnifying glass. 2 erotic postcards showing A, buccal coition between nude senorita, rear presentation, superior position, and nude torero, fore presentation, inferior position. B, anal violation by male religious, fully clothed, eyes object, of female religious, partly clothed, eyes direct, purchased by post from Box 32, P.O. Charing Cross, London, WC. A press cutting of recipe for renovation of old tan boots. 1 pence, 1 penny adhesive stamp, lavender, of the reign of Queen Victoria. A chart of measurements of Leopold Bloom compiled before, during, and after 2 months of consecutive use of Sandow Whiteley's pulley exerciser. Men's 15, athletes 20, viz. Chest 28 and 29.5 inches, biceps 9 inches and 10 inches, forearm 8.5 and 9 inches, thigh 10 inches and 12 inches, calf 11 inches and 12 inches. 1 prospectus of the Wonder Worker, the world's greatest remedy for rectal complaints, direct from Wonder Worker, Coventry House, South Place, London, EC, addressed to Mrs. L. Bloom, with brief accompanying note commencing, Dear Madam, quote the textual terms in which the prospectus claimed advantages for this thaumaturgic remedy. It heals and soothes while you sleep. In case of trouble in breaking wind, assists nature in the most formidable way, ensuring instant relief in discharge of gases, keeping parts clean and free, natural action, an initial outlay of 7 and 6, making a new man of you and life worth living. Ladies find Wonder Worker especially useful, a pleasant surprise when they note delightful result like a cool drink of fresh spring water on a sultry summer's day. Recommended to your lady and gentleman friends, lasts a lifetime. Insert long round end, Wonder Worker. Were there testimonials? Numerous. From clergymen, British naval officer, well-known author, city man, hospital nurse, lady, mother of 5, absent-minded beggar. How did absent-minded beggar's concluding testimonial conclude? What a pity the government did not supply all men with wonder workers during the South African campaign. What a relief it would have been.
What object did Bloom add to this collection of objects? A 4th typewritten letter received by Henry Flower, that HFBLB from Martha Clifford, find MC. What pleasant reflection accompanied this action? The reflection that, apart from the letter in question, his magnetic face, form, and address had been favorably received during the course of a preceding day by a wife, Mrs. Josephine Breen, born Josie Powell, a nurse, Miss Callan, Christian name unknown, a maid, Gertrude, Gertie, family name unknown. What possibility suggested itself? The possibility of exercising virile power of fascination in the most immediate future after an expensive repast in a private apartment in the company of an elegant courtesan of corporal beauty, moderately mercenary, variously instructed, a lady by origin. What did the second drawer contain? Documents. Birth certificate of Leopold Paula Bloom, an endorsement assurance policy of £500 in the Scottish Widows Assurance Society, intestated Millicent Millie Bloom, coming into force at 25 years as profit policy of £430, £460, 10, £500 at 60 years or death, 65 years or death, and death, respectively. Or with profit policy paid up of £299, 10, together with cash payment of £133, 10 at option. A bank passbook issued by the Ulster Bank, College Green branch, showing statement of account for half year ending 31st December 1903, balance in depositor's favor, £18, 14 shillings and 6pence sterling. Net personality, certificate of possession of £900, Canadian 4%, inscribed government stock, free of duty. Dockets of Catholic Cemeteries Glasnevin Committee, relative to a grave plot purchased. A local press cutting concerning change of name by deed poll. Quote the textual terms of this notice. I, Rudolph Virag, now resident of number 52 Clanbrassil Street, Dublin, formerly Zombathli in the Kingdom of Hungary, hereby give notice that I have assumed and intend henceforth upon all occasions and all times to be known by the name of Rudolph Bloom. What objects relative to Rudolph Bloom, born Virag, were in the second drawer? An indistinct daguerreotype of Rudolf Virag and his father, Leopold Virag, executed in the year 1852 in the portrait atelier of their respectively first and second cousin, Stefan Virag of Szesfalverten, Hungary, an ancient Haggadah book in which a pair of horn-rimmed Corvex spectacles inserted marked the passage of Thanksgiving in the ritual prayers of Passover. A photo card of the Queen's Hotel Ennis, proprietor Rudolph Bloom, an envelope addressed to my dear son Leopold. What fractions or phrases did the lecture of those 4 whole words evoke? Tomorrow will be a week that I received. It is no use, Leopold, to be with your dear mother. That is not more to stand to her. All for me is out. Be kind to Athos, Leopold, my dear son, always of me, das Herz, Gott, dein. What reminiscences of a human subject suffering from progressive melancholia did these objects evoke in Bloom? An old man in widow, unkempt hair, in bed with head covered, sighing, an infirm dog, Athos, aconite, resorted to by increasing doses of grains and scruples as a palliative of recrudescent neuralgia, the face in death of a septuagenarian suicide by poison.
Why did Bloom experience a sentimental remorse? Because in immature impatience he had treated with disrespect certain beliefs and practices, as the prohibition of the use of flesh meat and milk at one meal, the hebdomadary symposium of incoordinately abstract, perfervidly concrete, mercantile coex-religionist ex-compatriots, the circumcision of male infants, the supernatural character of Judaic scripture, the ineffability of the Tetragrammaton, the sanctity of the Sabbath. How did these beliefs and practices now appear to him? Not more rational than they had then appeared, not less rational than other beliefs and practices now appeared. What first reminiscence had he of Rudolf Bloom, deceased? Rudolf Bloom, deceased, narrated to his son Leopold Bloom, aged 6, a retrospective arrangement of migrations and settlements in and between Dublin, London, Florence, Milan, Vienna, Budapest, Szombathely, with statements of satisfaction, his grandfather having seen Maria Theresia, Empress of Austria, Queen of Hungary, with commercial advice, having taken care of pence, the pounds having taken care of themselves. Leopold Bloom, aged 6, had accompanied these narrations by constant consultation of a geographical map of Europe, political, and by suggestions for the establishment of affiliated business premises in the various centres mentioned. Had time equally but differently obliterated the memory of these migrations in narrator and listener? In narrator, by the access of years and in consequence of the use of narcotic toxin. In listener, by the access of years and in consequence of the action of distraction upon vicarious circumstances. What idiosyncrasies of the narrator were concomitant products of amnesia? Occasionally he ate without having previously removed his hat. Occasionally he drank voraciously the juice of gooseberry fool from an inclined plate. Occasionally he removed from his lips the traces of food by means of a lacerated envelope or other accessible fragment of paper. What two phenomena of senescence were more frequent? The myopic digital calculation of coins, irritation consequent upon repletion. What object offered partial consolation for these reminiscences? The endowment policy, the bank passbook, the certification of the possession of scrip. Reduce Bloom by cross-multiplication of reverses of fortune, from which these supports protected him, and by elimination of all positive values to a negligible, negative, irrational, unreal quantity. Successfully, in descending helotic order, poverty, that of the outdoor hawker of imitation jewellery, the dun for the recovery of bad and doubtful debts, the poor rate and deputy cess collector. Mendicancy, that of the fraudulent bankrupt with negligible assets, paying a quarter ducat to the pound, sandwichman, distributor of throwaways, nocturnal vagrant, insinuating sycophant, maimed sailor, blind stripling, superannuated bailiff's man, marfeast, licklet, spoil sport, pick-thank, eccentric public laughingstock seated on bench of public park under discarded perforated umbrella. Destitution. The inmate of Old Man's House, Royal Hospital, Kilmainham. The inmate of Simpson's Hospital for reduced but respectable men permanently disabled by gout or want of sight. Nadir of misery. The aged, impotent, disfranchised, rate-supported, moribund, lunatic pauper. With which attendant indignities? The unsympathetic indifference of previously amiable females, the contempt of muscular males, the acceptance of fragments of bread, dissimulated ignorance of casual acquaintances, the latration of illegitimate, unlicensed vagabond dogs, the infantile discharge of decomposed vegetable missiles worth little or nothing, nothing or less than nothing. By what could such a situation be precluded? By decease, change of state, by departure, change of place. Which, preferably? The latter, by line of least resistance. What considerations rendered it not entirely undesirable? A constant cohabitation impeding mutual toleration of personal defects. The habit of independent purchase increasingly cultivated the necessity to counteract by impermanent sojourn the permanence of arrest. What considerations rendered departure not irrational? The parties concerned, uniting, had increased and multiplied, which, being done, offspring produced, and educed to maturity. The parties, if not disunited, were obliged to reunite, for increase and multiplication, which was absurd, to form by reunion the original couple of uniting parties, which was impossible.
What considerations rendered it desirable? The attractive character of certain localities in Ireland and abroad as represented in general geographical maps of polychrome design, or in special ordnance survey charts by employment of scale, numerals, and hashers. In Ireland, the cliffs of Moher, the windy wilds of Connemara, Lough Neagh, with submerged petrified city, the giant causeway, Fort Camden and Fort Carlisle, the golden vale of Tipperary, the islands of Arran, the pastures of Royal Meath, Bridget's Elm in Kildare, the Queen's Island shipyard in Belfast, the Salmon Leap, the lakes of Killarney. Abroad, Ceylon, with Spice Garden supplying tea to Thomas Kernan, agent for Pulbrook, Robertson and Company, 2 Mincing Lane, London, EC, 5 Dame Street, Dublin. Jerusalem, the holy city with Mosque of Omar and Gate of Damascus, goal of aspiration. The Straits of Gibraltar, the unique birthplace of Marion Tweedy. The Parthenon, containing statues, nude Grecian divinities. The Wall Street money market, which controlled international finance. The Plaza de Toros at La Almunia, Spain, where O'Hara of the Camerons had slain the bull. Niagara, over which no human being had passed with impunity. The land of the Eskimos, eaters of soap. The forbidden country of Tibet, from which no traveller returns. The Bay of Naples, to see which was to die. The Dead Sea. Under what guidance, following what signs? At sea, septentrional by night, the pole star, located at the point of intersection of the right line from Beta Alpha and Ursa Major, produced and divided externally at Omega and the hypotenuse of the right-angled triangle, formed by the line Alpha Omega, so produced the line Alpha Delta of Ursa Major. On land, meridional, a bispherical moon revealed in imperfect varying phases of lunation through the posterior interstices of imperfectly occluded skirt of a carnose, negligent, perambulating female, a pillar of the cloud by day. What public advertisement would divulge the occultation of the departed? £5 reward, lost, stolen, or strayed from his residence, 7 Eccles Street. Missing gent about 40, answering to the name of Bloom, Leopold, Poldy, height 5 foot 9.5 inches, full build, olive complexion, may have since grown a beard when last seen was wearing a black suit. Above sum will be paid for information leading to his discovery. What universal binomial denominations would be his at entity and non-entity, assumed by any and known to none, every man or no man? What tributes his, honour and gifts of strangers, the friends of every man, an immortal beauty, the bride of no man? Would the departed never nowhere know how reappear? Ever would he wander, self-compelled, to the extreme limit of his cometary orbit, beyond the fixed stars and variable suns and telescopic planets, astronomical waifs and strays, to the extreme boundary of space, passing from land to land among peoples amid events? Somewhere, imperceptibly, he would hear, and somehow reluctantly, sun-compelled, obey the summons of recall. Whence, disappearing from the constellation of the Northern Crown, he would somehow reappear, reborn above the delta in the constellation of Cassiopeia, and after incalculable eons, peregrination return. An estranged avenger, a wreaker of justice on malefactors, a dark crusader, a sleeper awakened with financial resources, by supposition surpassing those of Rothschild or the Silver King. What would render such return irrational? An unsatisfactory equation between an exodus and return in time through reversible space, and an exodus and return in space through irreversible time. What play of forces inducing inertia rendered departure undesirable, the lateness of the hour, rendering procrastinatory the obscurity of the night, rendering invisible the uncertainty of thoroughfares, rendering perilous the necessity for repose, obviating movement, the proximity of an occupied bed, obviating research, the anticipation of warmth, human, tempered with coolness, linen, obviating desire and rendering desirable the statue of Narcissus, sound without echo, desired desire.
What past consecutive causes before rising pre-apprehended of accumulated fatigue did Bloom, before rising, silently recapitulate? The preparation of breakfast, burnt offering, intestinal congestion, and premeditative defecation, holy of holies, the bath, rite of John, the funeral, rite of Samuel, the advertisement of Alexander Keyes, Oram and Thummim, the unsubstantial lunch, rite of Melchizedek, the visit to museum and National Library, holy place, the book hunt along Bedford Row, Merchant's Arch, Wellington Quay, Simcath Torah, the music in the Ormond Hotel, Shiraz Shirim, the altercation with the truculent troglodyte in Bernard Kiernan's premises, Holocaust. A blank period of time, including a car drive, a visit to a house of mourning, a leave-taking, wilderness. The eroticism produced by feminine exhibitionism, rite of Onan. The prolonged delivery of Mrs. Mina Purfoy, heave offering. The visit to the disorderly house of Mrs. Bellico in 82 Tyrone Street Lower. And a subsequent brawl, and chance medley in Beaver Street, Armageddon. Nocturnal perambulation to and from the cabman's shelter, Butt Bridge, Atonement. What self-imposed enigma did Bloom about to rise in order to go so as to conclude, lest he should not conclude, involuntarily apprehend? The cause of a brief, sharp, unforeseen, heard, loud, lone crack emitted by the insentient material of a strain-veined timber table. What self-involved enigma did Bloom risen, going, gathering multicolored, multiform, multitudinous garments, voluntarily apprehending, not comprehend? Who was Mackintosh? What self-evident enigma, pondered with desultory constancy during 30 years, did Bloom now, having elected natural obscurity by the extinction of artificial light, silently, suddenly comprehend? Where was Moses when the candle went out? What imperfections in a perfect day did Bloom, walking silently, successively, enumerate? A provisional failure to obtain renewal of an advertisement, to obtain a certain quantity of tea from Thomas Kernan, agent for Pulbrook, Robinson and Company, 5 Dame Street, Dublin, and 2 Mincing Lane, London, EC. To certify the presence or absence of posterior rectal orifice in the case of Hellenic female divinities. To obtain admission, gratuitous or paid, to the performance of Leah by Mrs. Banman Palmer at the Gaiety Theatre, 46, 47, 48, 49, South King Street. What impression of an absent face did Bloom, arrested, silently recall? The face of her father, the late Major Brian Cooper Tweedy, Royal Dublin Fusiliers of Gibraltar and Rehoboth Dolphin's Barn. What recurrent impressions of the same were possible by hypothesis? Retreating at the terminus of the Great Northern Railway, Amiens Street, with constant uniform acceleration along parallel lines meeting at infinity, if produced along parallel lines, reproduced from infinity with constant uniform retardation at the terminus of the Great Northern Railway, Amiens Street, returning. What miscellaneous effects of female personal wearing apparel were received by him? A pair of new, inodorous, half-silk black ladies' hose, a pair of new violet garters, a pair of outsized ladies' drawers of India mull, cut on generous lines, redolent of Apopanax, jessamine, and Marathi's Turkish cigarettes, and containing a long, bright steel safety pin, folded curvilinear, a camisole of batiste with thin lace border, an accordion underskirt of blue silk moirette, all these objects being disposed irregularly on the top of a rectangular trunk, quadruple battened, having kept corners with multicolored labels, initialed on its foreside in white lettering, BCT, Brian Cooper Tweedy. What impersonal objects were perceived? A commode, one leg fractured, totally covered by square cretonne cutting, apple design, on which rested a lady's black straw hat, orange keyed ware bought at Henry Price, basket, fancy goods, chinaware and ironmongery manufacturer, 21, 22, 23 Moore Street. Disposed irregularly on the washstand and floor, and consisting of basin, soap dish, and brush tray on the washstand together, picture night article on the floor separate. Bloom's acts. He deposited the articles of clothing on a chair, removed his remaining articles of clothing, took from beneath the bolster at the head of the bed a folded, long, white nightshirt, inserted his head and arms into the proper apertures of the nightshirt, removed a pillow from the head to the foot of the bed, prepared the bed linen accordingly, and entered the bed. How? With circumspection, as invariably when entering an abode, his own or not his own, with solicitude, the snake spiral springs of the mattress being old, the brass quartz and pendant viperadi loose and tremulous under stress and strain. Prudently, as entering a lair or ambush of lustre adders. Lightly, the less to disturb. Reverently, the bed of conception and of birth, of consummation of marriage and of breach of marriage, of sleep and of death. What did his limbs, when gradually extended, encounter? New, clean bed linen, additional odors, the presence of a human form, female, hers, the imprint of a human form, male, not his, some crumbs, some flakes of potted meat, recooked, which he removed. If he had smiled, why would he have smiled? To reflect that each one who enters imagines himself to be the first to enter, whereas he is always the last term of a preceding series, even if the first term of a succeeding one, each imagining himself to be first, last, only, and alone, whereas he is neither first nor last, nor only, nor alone, in a series originating in and repeated to infinity. And that concludes the Chicago section of the Global Reading.
Good.
Clear?